Okay, picture this for a second. You're driving along, not too far from the Twin Cities, right? And suddenly you hear this roar of water, and then you see it, a legit 35-foot waterfall just tumbling down this limestone cliff.
Yeah.
That's Vermilion Falls in Hastings, Minnesota. It's one of those spots that just kind of makes you pull over.
Absolutely. And there's so much packed into that one place. We've looked at quite a mix of stuff for this: travel pieces, historical society info, even YouTube clips and Reddit threads.
Right, plus the geology, the environmental side of things.
Basically, a real range.
So that's what we're doing today, this deep dive. We want to kind of unpack Vermilion Falls, why it looks the way it does, the history behind it, maybe some surprising bits you wouldn't get from just like a quick look.
Sort of the essential download on the place.
Yeah, exactly. Your quick but thorough guide. Ready to jump in.
To do it. So the main event is obviously that waterfall, 35 feet, right in Vermilion Falls Park.
And it's cutting through this limestone ravine.
Precisely. Which tells you something about the landscape itself. It's not just flat ground.
And the river feeding it, the Vermilion River, it travels a fair bit, doesn't it? Almost 60 miles.
Yeah, through Scott and Dakota counties, eventually ending up in the Mississippi, near Hastings.
What blew me away was learning that, like 13 and a half miles of it are designated trout streams.
That close to a major city. It's pretty remarkable. Really speaks to the water quality, at least in those sections.
And the name Vermilion. That's French, right, for red.
Rivière Vermilion, Red River.
Okay.
Probably because of iron in the soil, giving the water that kind of reddish tint sometimes. Little clue about the geology there.
Okay, and the geology itself, this is where it got really interesting for me. It's part of the driftless area.
Yes, which is huge. So for folks who don't know, the driftless area basically dodged the last big glaciers.
Like the massive ice sheets just went around it.
Or somehow didn't scour it flat like they did most of the Midwest. Scientists still debate the exact reasons, but the result is this much more rugged terrain. Exposed bedrock, cliffs, ravines.
Which is why we have the waterfall. It wasn't smoothed over.
Exactly. And that lack of glaciation means different ecosystems, often more biodiversity. You find plants and animals that maybe didn't survive elsewhere nearby.
So around the falls, it's pretty lush then. Prairie grasses, wildflowers.
Oh yeah, the park has a lot of that native vegetation. It makes for a really nice natural setting, beyond just the falls themselves.
Okay, so stunning nature, unique geology, check. But there's a whole human history layer here too, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. Long before any Europeans showed up, this was Dakota land. The river was vital for fishing, travel, spiritually significant places.
Hard to imagine it without that context for us.
Definitely. Then, mid-1800s, settlers arrive. Hastings gets founded in 1853. And suddenly that waterfall isn't just scenery, it's power.
Right, water power for mills.
Exactly. Yeah. Sawmills, grist mills. The 1850s saw this area become a real industrial hub, all driven by the river's energy. These mills were key to Hastings' early growth as a river town.
And we're not talking small-time operations either. These were significant mills.
Very significant. Two main ones pop up in the history.
Right.
The Ramsey Mill from 1856 and the Gardner Mill, which actually started even earlier.
Earlier?
Yeah, 1853. It was originally called Ardent Mills, founded by a Harrison H. Graham. And get this, it's often cited as the first operating mill in Minnesota.
Wow, the first one up and running.
And, maybe even more impressively, the first all-roller mill in the entire U.S.
Okay, hold on. All-roller mill. What did that mean back then? Why was it a big deal?
So before that, you usually had big stone wheels grinding the grain.
Right.
Clunky, less precise. The all-roller system used, well, metal rollers. Multiple sets.
Oh.
Let them break down the grain much more gradually, much more consistently. You got finer flour, better quality, less waste. It was a huge technological leap for the time.
Made milling way more efficient and standardized, I guess.
Totally. And the innovation didn't stop there at that Ardent Mill site. They invented the purifier there, a machine to get rid of brand specs, make whiter flour.
Oh, interesting.
And the patent barrel for shipping flour more easily. Even graham flour supposedly originated there.
Graham flour, like for graham crackers.
That's the one. And later on, they developed what's called patent flour, which kind of amazingly is basically the standard white flour used in commercial bakeries even today.
No way. So that flour type came from this mill in Hastings.
The development work happened right there. And the Ardent Mills facility, it's still operating right next to the falls. Not just a ruin, it's a working mill.
That is incredible. The same spot powering industry from the 1850s to today. That's continuity.
It really is. And you mentioned ruins. The sources talk about Old Mill Park. That's where you can see remnants of the other big one, the Ramsey Mill.
What's left of it?
Mostly these really impressive tall stone pillars, kind of ghostly reminders of that early industrial boom.
So, a natural wonder that became an industrial engine. Okay, let's shift to today. If someone visits now, what's the experience like?
Well, it's Vermilion Falls Park now, about 40 acres. Plenty to do. There are hiking trails, paths that wind through the woods and along the ravine.
Nice. Picnic spots, too.
Yep, designated picnic areas and scenic overlooks, which give you different angles on the falls and the gorge.
That observation deck sounds key, the one where you can see the falls and the working ardent mills together.
That's a really unique perspective, yeah. The natural power right next to the modern industrial use of the site. It's quite something.
What about other activities? Fishing?
Definitely. People fish in the river for bass, northern pike, catfish, that sort of thing. And it's apparently a decent spot for bird watching.
Oh, yeah. What kind of birds?
Sources mentioned herons, kingfishers, even bald eagles sometimes.
Nice. And there's a bridge, too, the Vermilion Gorge Bridge.
Right, that spans the gorge further down, gives you great views looking back towards the falls or down the river.
Good to know. Now, accessibility, how easy is it to get around for everyone?
They do have accessible parking, which is great. And some paths are paved, but, it's a natural area. Some trails are uneven. So if mobility is a challenge, just something to be aware of, maybe stick to the main viewing areas.
Fair enough. Okay, nature, history, recreation. What about the sort of human touch? How do people interact with the place today?
Well, this is where some of those newer sources like news reports and online stuff come in. There's the Lovelocks Bridge.
Ah, right. Padlocks on a bridge.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like around 2015, people just started doing it on the bridge over the gorge, clipping on padlocks, as a symbol of love, maybe like that bridge in Paris.
The Pont des Arts, yeah.
By 2016, there were already something like 130 locks. It's kind of fascinating how these things just start, people wanting to leave their mark, symbolize connection.
Has it caused any issues? Like the weight?
The city's Parks and Rec department is keeping an eye on it. They learned from Paris, where they had to remove them eventually. But for now, it seems like they're letting it be.
Huh. Interesting little modern tradition layered onto the history.
Yeah.
What about the YouTube videos? You mentioned they offer different angles.
Yeah, one video was all about exploring, like getting down to the lower falls area. Mentioned some secret paths, maybe not official trails.
Oh, intriguing.
And it also mentioned caves in the area. Yeah, just small ones, probably. But adds a bit of mystery, right? Makes you wonder what else is hidden around there.
Definitely. And the Reddit comments, you said they were a bit more mixed.
Yeah, a bit. Some people felt the big, active Ardent Mills building right there kind of took away from the purely natural vibe.
I can see that.
But then someone else, a photographer, pointed out that the contrast, the industry right next to the waterfall, actually makes for really cool, unique pictures.
So, depends on your perspective, I guess. Both nature and industry, side by side.
Right. But Reddit also brought up some downsides. Graffiti mentioned, sometimes trash in the water.
Ah, that's a shame. The usual challenges with popular spots.
It is. It's that constant balance, isn't it? Access versus preservation.
And there was that really serious incident mentioned in one video, a rescue.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
A helicopter rescue in April 2023. 2 kids got stuck on a rock in the river when the water was high, likely from snowmelt.
Wow, that's scary.
A powerful reminder,
Yeah.
Especially when the water's rushing like that. Got to respect the river.
Absolutely. And you touched on the fish earlier, trout upstream, different fish downstream.
Right. Historically, the upstream section had trophy-sized trout, apparently. Less common now, but it's still managed as a trout stream. Below the falls, the water warms up. Different conditions, so you get more typical river fish. The waterfall itself creates a natural barrier and changes the habitat.
Okay, so with all this use and history, what's being done to protect the place? Conservation efforts.
There are definitely efforts underway. The sources mention challenges, like pollution runoff into the watershed, invasive plants. Buckthorn is a big one there.
Buckthorn's nasty stuff. Crowds out native plants.
It really is.
Yeah.
And just general habitat wear and tear. But there are groups working on it.
Like Friends of the Mississippi River and that watershed organization.
Exactly. Friends of the Mississippi have a specific program, the Vermilion Stewards, using volunteers for cleanups, removing invasives like that buckthorn.
Good on them.
And then there's the Vermilion River Watershed Joint Powers Organization, the VRWJPO. Bit of a mouthful.
Huh?
Their scope is much bigger. The whole watershed, Across 2 counties, lots of towns, they do education, science monitoring, water quality and flow, and support conservation projects throughout that whole area. It's a big undertaking.
So there's a coordinated effort to look after the river system.
Yes. And you also have the Hastings Area Historical Society, making sure the human story, the milling history and all that, isn't forgotten. They interpret the local history.
Right. So bringing it all together then, Vermilion Falls isn't just a pretty spot.
Not at all. It's this amazing blend. You've got the raw natural beauty, the geology.
Yeah.
You've got this really significant industrial past that shaped the town.
And then you have the present day recreation, community involvement, those ongoing conservation challenges.
Exactly. It's all layered right there.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How many places like this exist, even near cities? Places with deep history, natural value, facing modern pressures.
For sure. Like, what other spots that maybe seem ordinary at first glance have these kinds of stories just waiting? Makes you want to look closer at your own local places.
Yeah, it does. So, bottom line, if you happen to be in the St. Croix Valley area, maybe check out Vermilion Falls. It's a really unique window into both Minnesota's natural world and its industrial history, all flowing together in one place.
Well said. A worthwhile detour.